My parents sent me to fat camp, but it was actually a human experiment. I still remember the look on my mom's face when she said it, like she was delivering good news, like she thought I'd thank her. We found something perfect for you, sweetie. It's called Camp Evergreen, a health and fitness retreat for teens. You'll love it. Camp Evergreen? I repeated, forcing a smile. Sounds nice, but I knew exactly what she meant. It wasn't a health camp. It was a fat camp, and I was the fat kid. Growing up, I was never exactly skinny, but I wasn't huge either. I played basketball, biked with friends, even went hiking sometimes. But to my parents, especially my mom, I was always too much. Too big, too slow, too unmotivated. She'd make comments like, "You'd be so handsome if you just lost a little weight. You don't want to end up like your uncle, do you?" She never said it to hurt me, or at least, she didn't think she was. But every time she mentioned my weight, I felt a little smaller inside. The final straw came that spring. I failed my physical fitness test at school. Well, failed as in I couldn't run a mile under 10 minutes. Big deal. But apparently, it was a big deal. My gym teacher had called my parents, suggesting I take my health more seriously. That same night, I overheard my mom on the phone with my dad. "He needs structure, Mike. He needs motivation. We can't just let him waste his summer playing video games again." And that's how it started. 2 weeks later, I was enrolled. I tried to argue. I begged. Even, "Please, Mom, I'll go to the gym. I'll eat better. Just don't send me there." But she had already made up her mind. "You'll thank us later, honey. This will be good for you." I didn't thank them. I didn't even speak to them on the drive up. Camp Evergreen was 4 hours away, hidden in the woods near some lake I'd never heard of. The sign at the entrance said, "Transform your life." I wanted to puke. When we pulled into the parking lot, I saw other kids arriving too. Most of them looked nervous, a few even crying. There were counselors in matching green shirts trying to act cheerful, yelling things like, "Welcome to your best summer ever." Yeah, sure. My mom gave me one last hug before she left. I could feel her relief, like she was finally unloading a problem. "You're going to do great," she said. "We'll call every Sunday." Then she got in the car and drove away. And just like that, I was alone. The camp wasn't awful, at least not at first. We had cabins with 6 bunks each, a small lake, hiking trails, and a dining hall that looked like something out of a school cafeteria. I met my cabin mates that first night. Ethan, a shy kid from New York who barely spoke above a whisper. Liam, who cracked jokes nonstop to hide how scared he was. And Jordan, the cool one who acted like he didn't care about anything. We bonded fast. Trauma tends to do that. Our counselor, Megan, was in her early 20s. She had the kind of energy that made you exhausted just looking at her. "You guys are going to crush it this summer," she said. "It's not about losing weight. It's about finding yourself." I didn't believe her. None of us did. The first few days were brutal. We woke up at 6 a.m., went for a morning jog, then had breakfast, oatmeal and fruit. No sugar allowed. After that, it was nonstop activities, swimming, hiking, motivational sessions, and group therapy. Every night, I'd collapse into my bunk feeling like my legs were on fire. But the worst part wasn't the exercise. It was the mirror. Everywhere you went, there were mirrors in the cabins, in the bathrooms, even in the dining hall. The counselors said it was to help us track progress, but all it did was remind me of everything I hated about myself. One night, after lights out, Ethan whispered from across the cabin, "Do you think we'll actually change?" I didn't know what to say. I wanted to tell him yes, that everything would get better. But all I could manage was, "I hope so." Because deep down, I didn't believe it. What I didn't know then, what none of us knew, was that this camp was hiding something much darker than weight loss programs and motivational speeches. And by the time we found out, it was already too late. By the end of the first week, we already knew Camp Evergreen wasn't just about getting healthy. It was about control. There were rules for everything. What we could eat, how long we could shower, when we could sleep, even when we could talk. Rule number 1, no snacks, no food outside the cafeteria. Rule number 2, no contact with the outside world except Sunday calls. Rule number 3, no complaining. Negative attitudes slow progress. If you broke any of them, they'd write you up. 3 write-ups meant disciplinary training, which nobody wanted to find out about. The first person to get one was Liam. He'd been caught sneaking a candy bar into his bunk, one his mom had hidden in his bag. When they found it, the counselors escorted him to the wellness room. He didn't come back until the next morning. We asked what happened, but he just stared at the floor. "They made me run laps for hours," he whispered. "Then they yelled at me for disrespecting the program." That's when I started realizing something was seriously off. The group therapy sessions were just as weird. They'd put us in a circle and make us talk about our insecurities, while the counselor wrote notes. What do you hate most about your body? How do you think you've disappointed your parents? If you didn't answer, they'd keep pushing until you cried or said something dramatic enough for them to move on. It felt less like therapy and more like they were breaking us. The food wasn't terrible, but it was controlled to the gram. Every portion weighed, every calorie tracked. They said it was to teach discipline, but it felt like punishment. One day, I saw one of the counselors, a guy named Chris, eating pizza behind the dining hall. He noticed me staring and snapped, "You didn't see anything. Go back inside." I did, because I didn't want to end up like Liam. Week 2. Something strange happened. During our night reflection walk, Ethan tripped over something buried in the dirt near the cabins. It looked like a metal latch, almost like the entrance to a cellar. We weren't supposed to be off the path, but curiosity got the better of us. We brushed the dirt aside and saw a small door, padlocked shut. Liam joked, "What's this? The dungeon for kids who eat extra bread." We laughed, nervously. But when we asked Megan about it the next morning, she froze for a split second before smiling again. "Oh, that's just old storage. Off limits, okay?" Her tone said drop it. That night, we couldn't stop talking about it. Jordan, the cool guy, decided he wanted to see what was down there. "Come on," he said. "They're hiding something. I can feel it." I told him he was insane, but part of me wanted to know too. So the next night, when everyone was asleep, we snuck out. Just me, Jordan, and Ethan. The woods were quiet, except for the sound of crickets, and our footsteps crunching the gravel. The camp looked different at night, colder, emptier, like it was holding its breath. When we reached the hatch, Jordan pulled out a small rock and smashed the padlock. It took 3 tries before it broke. The door creaked open. A damp, sour smell hit us immediately, like old sweat and mold. A staircase led down into the darkness. We only went a few steps before I heard something. A voice, a whimper. Ethan froze. "Did you hear that?" It came again, faint but clear. Someone was crying down there. Jordan pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam flickered across metal walls, storage racks, and something else. A chair, with straps. That's when I panicked. "We have to go." But before we could run, a light flashed behind us, a flashlight. "What are you doing here?" It was Megan. They dragged us back to the cabin, yelling the whole way. Jordan tried to explain, but she cut him off. "You violated major camp rules. You could have been hurt." We didn't get to sleep that night. The next morning, we were separated into different reflection groups. Jordan didn't come back. When I asked where he was, Megan smiled too quickly. "He was sent home for disruptive behavior. You won't be seeing him again." But that was a lie. Because on Sunday, during our weekly call home, I tried asking my mom if she'd heard from his parents. She said, "Jordan, who's that?" They hadn't called anyone. That was the moment I knew this camp wasn't what it claimed to be. And if I wanted to make it out, I had to find out what they were really doing to us. After Jordan disappeared, everything changed. The counselors acted like nothing happened, but the rest of us could feel it. That heavy silence hanging in the air. That sense that someone was watching. They doubled the workouts. No more free time, no lake swims, no reflection walks. Even meals got smaller. If anyone asked about Jordan, they'd say, he wasn't committed to change. That phrase, committed to change, became their favorite line. It started showing up everywhere. On the bulletin board, on the morning announcements, even printed on our t-shirts. It felt less like motivation and more like indoctrination. The Sunday after Jordan vanished, I tried to talk to my mom again. Calls were always monitored. A counselor would stand behind us, pretending not to listen, but clearly taking notes. I wanted to tell her everything, but if I said too much, they'd cut the line. So I just said, "Mom, I don't feel safe here." She laughed softly. "You're just homesick, sweetheart. Trust the process. Trust the process." Another phrase they loved. When the call ended, I saw Megan standing at the back of the room. She was smiling, but her eyes were cold. That night, I decided I couldn't keep pretending. If I wanted to survive the rest of the summer, I needed answers. So I went back to the cellar, alone. It was riskier this time. There were more guards, and the counselors had started doing night rounds. But I waited until the campfire ended, slipped out through the bathroom window, and crept through the trees. When I reached the hatch, it was sealed again, this time with a new lock and a security camera above it. But about 30 feet away, I found something else, a vent pipe leading underground, just wide enough to crawl through. I hesitated only a second before sliding inside. The air was thick and warm, carrying that same sour smell from before. I followed the pipe until it opened into a small room, and there under the dim light were files, dozens of them, stacked on metal shelves, each labeled with a name: Ethan, Liam, Jordan, me. My hands were shaking as I opened mine. Inside were pictures, progress photos, weight logs, and something worse, medical reports I'd never seen before. They'd been running blood tests, tracking hormone levels, even collecting behavioral data. It wasn't just a fitness camp. It was an experiment. Suddenly, I heard footsteps above. Voices. They're responding well to the supplements. Yes, but subject J47 didn't tolerate the dosage. J47. Jordan. My stomach dropped. They weren't just trying to make us lose weight. They were testing drugs on us, probably illegal ones. I backed toward the vent, trying not to breathe too loud. But then I saw something that froze me completely. A door, half open, and behind it, a small room with a single bed. Someone was lying on it. It was Jordan. He looked pale, almost translucent under the fluorescent light. His arms were covered in small bruises, needle marks. His eyes opened slowly when he heard me. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. "Jordan, what did they do to you?" He swallowed hard. It's not a camp. It's a company. They're testing metabolic enhancers, some kind of drug that forces your body to burn fat." I stared at him in horror. "Does it work?" He shook his head. "It hurts. It doesn't stop. They said I didn't respond properly, that I'd failed the protocol." Before I could say another word, we heard a door slam upstairs. "Someone's down there." I ran. I crawled back through the vent, scraped my hands bloody, and sprinted into the woods. I didn't stop until I reached the lake. For a few minutes, I just sat there gasping, trying to think. Who could I tell? The counselors? They were in on it. The police? I didn't even have my phone. They'd taken it the first day. All I knew was that Jordan was still alive, and I couldn't leave him there. The next morning, I told Ethan everything. He didn't believe me at first until I showed him the scratches on my arms and the file I'd stolen with my name on it. He looked terrified. "We have to get out," he said. "Now." But getting out wasn't that simple. The camp was surrounded by tall fences and security gates that only opened for supply trucks once a week. So, we made a plan. We'd wait until Friday, supply day. Then we'd sneak into one of the delivery vans and escape. It sounded insane, but at that point, insanity was our only option. That Friday felt like the longest day of my life. We pretended to act normal, doing push-ups, jogging, smiling when the counselors passed. But every second felt like a countdown. When the sun started setting, Ethan and I snuck toward the loading area behind the cafeteria. 2 vans were parked there, doors open, drivers chatting nearby. We waited for the right moment, then slipped inside one of the vans and hid under a tarp. My heart was pounding so hard I thought they'd hear it. The engine started. The gates opened. We were leaving. But just when I thought we were safe, the van stopped. The back doors swung open, and standing there was Megan. When Megan opened the van doors, she didn't even look surprised. She just sighed, like a teacher catching her students cheating on a test. "You really thought you could run," she said quietly. Her voice wasn't angry. It was almost disappointed. Ethan tried to bolt, but 2 male counselors appeared behind her. They grabbed him before he even made it to the edge of the parking lot. I froze. My entire body went numb. "You don't understand," I stammered. "You're hurting people, Jordan." Megan's expression changed. "Jordan is fine," she said flatly. "You don't need to worry about him anymore." But I saw something flicker in her eyes. Guilt. Fear. And that was all I needed to know. They dragged us to the main building, a place we'd never been allowed inside before. It looked like an office, but behind the reception area was a hallway, lined with doors labeled with letters and numbers. Lab A, Lab B, Med Bay. We were shoved into a small white room with a camera in the corner. The walls were soundproof. No windows. Just one locked door. Megan came in a few minutes later holding a clipboard. "Do you have any idea how much money your parents paid for you to be here?" she said. "They wanted results, and we're giving them that." "What are you talking about?" I said. "You're experimenting on kids." "We're helping kids," she snapped. "This program changes lives. It's a partnership between Evergreen Health and a biotech firm. You should be grateful you're part of something bigger." "Something bigger?" I laughed bitterly. "You're torturing people." She slammed her clipboard down. "You don't know what you're saying. You think your parents sent you here to play games. They signed consent forms. Every single one." That broke me. My parents knew? No, they couldn't have. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. The way my mom avoided questions. The way she kept saying trust the process. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just stared at the floor, trying not to cry. Megan sighed again and turned toward the door. "We'll transfer you to medical observation," You'll stay there until your attitude improves. Then she left. They separated Ethan and me after that. I never saw him again. I don't know how long I was in that room, maybe days. They brought food twice a day. The same bland oatmeal and boiled vegetables. There was a camera watching me even when I slept. I kept thinking about Jordan, about the files, about what they'd done to us, and I kept thinking about how to get out. My chance came unexpectedly. One night, during a thunderstorm, the lights flickered and went out. The backup generator kicked in, but the electronic locks made a clicking sound like they were resetting. I ran to the door, pushed it, and it opened. I didn't think. I just moved. The hallways were dark, lit only by emergency lights. I could hear shouting somewhere upstairs. Maybe the storm had knocked out power in the labs. I passed by an open room and saw shelves full of vials and paperwork. On one desk was a document labeled Evergreen Clinical Trial Phase 2, Adolescent Metabolic Acceleration. Below it was a list of subjects. J47 Jordan Parker, terminated. E20 to Ethan Miller, incomplete. A 13 Alex Reed, active. That was me. I didn't stop to read more. I ran through the hallway until I found an exit door at the back. It led straight into the woods. Rain poured down in sheets, lightning flashing through the trees. I ran until my legs gave out. When I finally saw headlights on the road, I stumbled toward them, waving my arms. A truck screeched to a stop, and the driver jumped out. Kid, what the hell are you doing out here? I barely managed to say the words. Camp Evergreen, please, help me. Then everything went black. I woke up 2 days later in a hospital. My parents were there, sitting by my bed. My mom's eyes were red from crying. Oh my God, Alex. We thought you were. I cut her off. Did you know? I whispered. About the experiments? She froze. Didn't answer. Just looked at the floor. That was all the answer I needed. The police got involved, but the camp denied everything. They called it a misunderstanding, claiming they were just running a nutrition and wellness study. They showed papers, signed consent forms, medical releases, everything legal and clean. By the time the investigation started, the camp was already shut down. The owners moved operations overseas. No charges were filed, no arrests, nothing. It was like the whole thing had never existed. It's been 3 years now. I'm 17. I still have scars on my arms where the needles went in, and nightmares that won't go away. Sometimes, when I wake up at night, I swear I can still smell that sour, metallic air from the basement. And sometimes, I get calls from blocked numbers. When I answer, there's silence. Then a faint voice whispers, "How's your progress, Alex?" Then the line goes dead. I don't know who's calling. I don't know if it's someone from the camp, or if it's just in my head. But one thing I do know, Camp Evergreen wasn't about helping kids. It was about owning them. And no matter how far I run, I don't think I ever really left that place.